I am so excited to dive into yet another epic Rebel Radio conversation with my new friend, Rosalyn. Rosalyn, thank you for being on the show. I'm so excited that you're here today.
Well, I can't be more excited than you are. It's just a privilege and an honor.
Aw, thank you so much. So before we came live on the show today, I was sharing a little bit about your numerology, and I'm curious, what was something that really popped out to you, stood out to you as something that I shared with you?
Well, just the fact that, I shared with you my list of things to do, and you said, no surprise. It's, just highly creative. Another person said, highly creative has their hands in so many different baskets that organization sometimes is a little bit. So there's a stack and it's next to me, but it has all the things that I want to have my hands on. It's the Tell Me Who You Are. It's my gratitude list. It's my book of podcast. Oh, I've got to show you this cool book that I got. It's a book of podcast. And what I do is I record all my podcasts that I've been on, what we talk about. So when you give me tidbits, I can go ahead and write it down. So I'm promoting the podcast planner. This person came on my Instagram page and they're still working on my review, but at least I showed their book up. I'll have to let them know I promoted. So they got to get my book now.
There you go. I love it. A podcast planner. That's pretty organized. That's pretty organized.
Hey, I write stuff down. And so from you, I learned about the power of Rebel Radio, of StreamYard and Anchor and how the two interchange with one another. And it's a give and exchange. Every show that we come on, I give you, you give me, and we give each other. And that's the beauty of what it's all about. And insight is power. And I think every day that we learn something, we become a better person. The moment that we stop learning, we start dying. So that's the beauty of what it's all about. What was the most fascinating thing that you said to me that you didn't expect that, but I reacted with?
Oh, with your numerology? I think it was just that I always refer to ruling number 5s as butterfly or hummingbirds, and you just kind of here, there, and everywhere. And the look on your face when I shared it, you're like, oh, she knows me so well. I love it. So, Rosalyn, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, what your entrepreneurial journey has been like.
Well, a person who never gives up. I was just writing this thing for the Smile book, and it's all about the obstacles are what defines you. I was listening to Viktor Frankl, and he says we have these adversities in our life, and the adversities are what fuel us, which really make us stronger. And so if I was just to reflect on, just a few things in my past life, I grew up with scoliosis, and it was kind of like my defining point as a youngster, but it became a turning point. It became a turning point because I got the chance to see up close and personal what it was like to be different than others. And so I become the voice for those who have ability first and sharing what those abilities are and having the mindset, or going up to someone who's been in an accident and saying, I understand. Right. Those people who've lost a job, I tell them about the story of, I had left a job, and I had a job in LA for a major station. The name will be nameless. And they let me go after I was all moved in and everything. And I had 23 interviews later, I ended up in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And I said, if I could survive anywhere where I moved to a place and I knew nobody, I could do that. They say that radio stations in New Mexico go faster than divorces. So I wanted to go ahead and look up and see what K-bomb is now, because at the time it was Spanish language radio. So I was there for about 3 months before the snowstorm hit. You don't want to Southern California in snow. So they shipped me out, and I started for a brand new affiliate of Univision, which was a Spanish language television station, which is the top of the top. And, it was like selling ice cream to Eskimos, because San Diego was a cable market and we didn't have any cable penetration. But, through my marketing finesse, I think I was able to bring over one of the clients I had from New Mexico. And I was there about a year. And at one point, I thought of getting out of it. I moved to LA, and I was in television, or I was working in television and radio. I did that for about 7 years. And when I got married, the numbers, the dates all kind of run together here now. I was going to get into teaching, and they didn't realize how hard it was that I worked in sales. And if you know about anything about sales, you're always on. You're always on. So
Right.
I went from the world of sales to the world of nonprofit, and I learned that nonprofit was more evil than the profit world. So I went back to the world of profit. And I've been a professor for a couple decades, changing people's lives. Um, I always have people tell their stories and say what happens in our class stays in our class, but you learn the most fascinating and interesting things. I've inspired some of my people to become TED speakers.
Mm-hmm.
I've been on the TED stage 3 times,
Nice.
and one of them was about that scoliosis as a child.
Mm.
And life just keeps reinventing itself. I started a series that's on IGTV. It's called Community of Unity, and it's about bringing our world together. One
Yes.
day I'm going to return the favor to you, and I'm going to have you interview on my show.
Oh, yes, please. I would
Yes.
love to. I would love
There we go. So it's just, they say success isn't necessarily defined by your bank account.
Mm.
It's where you can look someone in the eye and say, this is it.
Yeah.
I have a roof over my head, got food in the stomach, there's gasoline in the car, a few dollars in the bank. What else do I need?
Mm. So I'm going to play devil's advocate here a little bit.
Uh-oh.
Because I teach and I believe that the more, and we talk about wealth here on Rebel Radio a lot and what wealth means to us. And for me, I'm a firm believer in the people who care having more money. Because when the people who care have more money, we can start to change the world and bring that unity into place. And right now, the control structures, whoever those powers that be might be, they control the money. And so what I am seeing in the service and coaching industry is people who are at that place where I have enough and I don't need any more. And I'm curious what your thought is around that if we are to change the world and bring unity to this world, if the coaches, the teachers, the healers, if they have more money and they're moving more money into the economy in ways that are intentional, ways that are creating unity, ways that are healing the world, wouldn't it behoove us to make more money?
Well, I think it is. And let me just go through a couple of different examples. I belong to this group, and anybody who wants to feel better about themselves and get started in a brand new way, there's a group that I go to is Thrivers. And in Thrivers, we have this extreme dream. And my extreme dream, and I'll share it with you also, know that I'm very directed to what I want to do, is I'm going to be on my next TED Talk, over 5,000 people.
Yes.
My book is going to be an international bestseller. It's called A Message for Tomorrow's Leader. And in the direct marketing group, I'm going to become a senior VP. And so if you have some essential services that everybody pays and everybody uses and you want to decrease your expenses, I too do that. Because to have multiple forms of income is really what it's all about. And to show you that, Tony Robbins, when the economy went down, was selling essential oils.
Mm-hmm.
You look at all the big speakers out there, they too at one point in their life, even the president of the former president of the United States was behind the organization that I'm with.
Mm-hmm. And
it's everybody needs to have somewhere else. Maybe it's your gold that you have. Maybe it's the investment that you go ahead and invest in. Maybe it's the baseball cards or the trivia that you have. We all have different ways, but where is this coming to? Well, there's a guy in this group. His name is John Grant, and his extreme dream is to coach over 1,000 people. And so we had an introductory session yesterday, and as we were sitting there talking, he said, "This is what I have." And I said, "It sounds great. It sounds wonderful. But I don't have that right now."
Mm-hmm.
And so he made an offer to me. He says, "This is what I want to do for you." And if you go across the media, there are so many different examples of people giving back. There's so many things to choose from. I can't do it all. I really wanted to go to the BNI group where I represent my group that I work with and sell home security and things like that. And I couldn't go. And so there was an email that came yesterday that there was a message from the head of BNI wanting you to know the key essence of networking and connecting. And I'm like, I wanted to, but I couldn't. And, like the same thing, there was this person I met at this event I was with last weekend at GSFE, and I hesitated whether I could go. And I paid the money, and I met this person who's the number 2 person behind the number 1 person between the TED world. And it's all about helping one another. And he says, whatever I can do to help you out. And there's just so many people who are putting their courses out there for free because people don't have. And I always say, anybody who helps me, I will more than repay you in the gratitude that I will give you, in the reviews that I get, that's sharing with the world. If you look at this beautiful, lovely hairstyle that I have, this is by a lady whose name is Bahia Hair and Makeup. And I met her through the guy who did my photographs, whose name is Bob Delgadillo. And they are the heart and soul. And when I finished that videos and the photos, they came out to my car and they purchased my book. And the guy said, "Hey, have you ever considered doing an audio book?" And so next week, we're going to be talking about an audiobook for my first book. And when I was at the convention last week, he must have taken a look and peek at my book. He said, "I am so impressed with your books. I want to do an exclusive to make sure that we can do all of them." And why do I tell these stories? Because we're talking about people helping one another at prices they can afford. I had a $5,000 package on my photography. And if you see any of the pictures that I'm posting, you go to the back of my book of Dogs and Roses, and there's a gorgeous picture of me in this beautiful royal blue gown, looking gorgeous. And when I had to come up with the photographer, who did I want? I wanted that guy who took that picture. And so we worked out a deal with the package where I got him and I got the photographer and I got the hair and the makeup, and it was all in one deal. And he says, "This is worth $1 million." And I said, "I'm going to tell the world." And boy, so, that's my example. I mean,
yeah, and I love that, because wealth isn't just about the dollars, right? Wealth is about sharing and contributing and seeing each other's value and really moving that energy out into the world. The dollars are just a side effect of that energy of wealth, right? So I love that you share that, because it's not always about the exchange of dollars, but the exchange of energy and finding ways to work together so that you can support each other and really be of service to each other. I love it.
Oh, that's what it's all about.
You betcha. So I'm curious, we talk about self-mastery here at Rebel Radio a lot, and it sounds like you've had quite the journey of self-mastery and self-discovery, especially with having a childhood with scoliosis, and my mom also suffered from that as well. So I'm curious, what does self-mastery mean to you?
Well, I was on a show with Eric McCoy, and he is, living high on life's energy, talking about overcoming his abuse of drugs and alcohol and things like that. And he said, when you go back to knowledge and you go to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, he said there's a higher need that was developed, and I'm going to call it transformation. And why do I tell you all this? Because in order to do anything in life, you need to love and honor yourself.
Yes.
And there's so many people who are missing out on who am I? And you can't get anyone to love you unless you can look in the mirror and say, "I'm good enough." There was this guy named Willis Rebick in this group called Up With People that I traveled. And I'll never forget the conversation that we had. And he looked at me one day and he said, "Rosalyn, I want you to look at the mirror one day, look at that person and say, I love you for who you are."
Yes.
Who you are, the whole entire thing. There's a man in heaven who lost his life too short, and his name is Daniel Ponkey. And he was my life coach, and he always said to me, "I believe in you, Rosalyn. I know there are greater things that are happening for you." And, because of my busy life, there was a post that came into my messenger that I missed, that was a friend who I don't know by name, but said, "I know that you're good friends with Daniel, and we're doing this event for him. And I don't know if you'd want to speak." And I missed it. And, his wife is such a beautiful lady, and the child, and they don't know what happened to him. But life sends us these messengers. As I sit here, I reflect on all the different people who poured into me. There was a guy when I was in high school, and his name was Chris Cox. And I just remember the way that he made me feel. And as a youngster, when I was having trouble, there was this lady named Sally Martin. I don't know what happened to Sally Martin, but there are these people who walk into our lives that we don't know the value and the virtue, and until they're nearly gone. And all of them pour into us of different aspects of different matters. There's Greg Apodaca, who I helped on his TED thing and offered me 6 months of coaching. And when I did my first TED talk, he was flabbergasted, and he just called me in. We there's so much of getting back to people. It's I made a pact recently that each person who reached out to me for my birthday, I wanted to call and talk to them. And I posted my Facebook wish. I was born on my dad's birthday. He passed on my birthday. And this year, call me. I want to hear people's voices.
Yeah, and I think that's so important, especially in today's world where we are so disconnected, is to create that connection, right? And
it's everybody texts and this and that and so on and so forth. And then, you can't just say, I called someone. What are you doing calling me? What are you doing calling me? Let's send them a text and say, are you available between hour X and Y? Send me your calendar. Let's put it up there. And So all roundabout, what is mastery? Mastery is loving yourself to understand, the good and the bad and the ugly, what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are. That, as many people say, do what you're good at, and what you're not good at, find other people. So I'm persistent and powerful. And I spent 4.5 hours getting this video up, and I felt so powerful that I did it. And this 23-year-old says, Rosalyn, the video doesn't do you justice. I said, on a scale of 1 to 10, what do you give it? A 2. I'm like, okay, do it, make it happen.
Right? Yeah, finding the support. We're not good at everything, right?
It's fun. And as my new web designer says, I can do this for you. And no one ever asked me for a birthday gift of doing this. I said, well, I gave you a couple leads. I figured they were worth something or whatever. And, it could happen. And he's like, it's $40. We were talking about $18. He said, well, 18 is when I did. And I said, well, if it would be easier, I can get my other guy to do it. And I've got a guy who does really good videos. And if you want someone, I'm not going to share his cost, but I have someone who can edit videos for you. And he is awesome. His name is Kenny.
I love it.
Doug Kenny. He's my little buddy. So the mastery, in summary, is realizing we're not perfect. And life is a process of self-discovery, of realizing the things that we can't do and we don't do. And the big one in close is, whatever you do at the end of the day, you've done the best you can, and be satisfied that that's enough.
Yeah, so good. You are enough. You are enough. I love that. Rosalyn, I could talk to you all day. It's been such a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you for being here. But as always, we end the show with one last question.
Oh my God, time has flown. I figured we just started.
What do you dream of for the world?
My life coach and I came up with this when I began coaching with him. And I said that I want peace, love, and understanding. So if you go to my LinkedIn page and you look at my name on LinkedIn, there was a post that I shared, and it was the impact of cultural diversity. I mentioned I traveled in a group called Up With People. It was about promoting cultural understanding. And I'm not perfect. There was one day in my class, and I was looking at the world of what had happened. I was trying to say with my heart of heart and soul of soul of how I wanted to bring the people together. And I gave an example. And one individual, I won't name the ethnicity, said, what you said is highly offensive. I take great offense to that. And so the post is, we all have shortcomings. We have things we don't understand about ourselves, of blindness that we can't see, of how we make an impact on the world, good, bad, and indifferent. And so I think it's the responsibility of all of us, and what happened and what we've experienced in this year is take a class, do a course, pick up a book, talk to someone of a different culture, go to a different religious experience, just so that you can say that you understand.
Yeah.
And the more that we can come together to realize we all eat breakfast, we all eat lunch, we all eat dinner, we may pray to a different entity, we may wear different clothes, we may have different customs, but we all have a blood that goes through us, and we have a heart that joins us together.
We're all human. Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Great. Well, it was truly an honor, and I know we're going to have to come back for the next part because you only got half of it.